Hello, Moses, Carly, Mike. I am excited to be facilitating this video guide on less lethal personal and home defense. This is Book 2. It covers home defense. I also offer a warm welcome to both new and veteran viewers of this channel. The guide, Book 2, has two components: a compilation of the videos we have so far presented on the topic of less lethal home defense. The bulk of the content, however, will be new material, not presented before. This includes each of we presenters discussing our personal home defense plan and less lethal devices. Let's get started with a greeting from my co-presenters. Then, Mike, you are up first.
Hello, I am Moses. Welcome aboard.
Hi, this is Mike. I am glad you could make it.
Hello, I'm Carly. Enjoy.
Hey Carlotta. Hello everyone. I am going to show you a condensed version of the video I presented on what is less lethal. Hi, I'm Mike. I am speaking specifically to Americans. But the things we will present could apply to anyone in the world. For our purposes, less lethal refers to devices that civilians can purchase that are of the following types: chemical irritants, pain-giving, incapacitating, or multi-purpose. The chemical irritants are your typical pepper spray devices, or the repurposed paintball markers, shooting powder, laced with pepper spray, or stronger. The pain deterrent less lethals feature the stun gun and the pepper ball markers, also called launchers, shooting solid kinetic balls. Finally, we have incapacitation. Both chemical and pain systems can incapacitate for a short period of time, but the taser is designed specifically for that purpose. It is not a stun gun. It doesn't shock the assailant per se, but instead sends a voltage at a frequency that scrambles the nervous system, temporarily causing total loss of motor control. Please understand, less lethal does not mean non-lethal. Although very rare, it is possible for any of the less lethal devices to be lethal. Comply with any robber armed with a firearm on the street. Run or barricade yourself and loved ones, if at home with no firearm. If it is clear the assailant is going to hurt you or yours regardless whether you comply or not, then anything is better than nothing. There are less lethal markers that can be modified to give you some hope. All of this and the situations surrounding such confrontations will be covered later on this channel. I will leave you with some brief videos showing the various less lethal devices in action. Keep in mind two of the examples show less lethal devices being applied by law enforcement. They are the hunters. In scenarios for we citizens, we are the prey.
Put the fight down! Come on! Come on, do it! Come on, do it! Taser deployed.
That's it. Back to you, Carlotta.
Hello again. My name is Moses for you new viewers. In our part 2 on launchers, we will look at launchers best suited for home defense. When choosing a launcher for concealed carry while out of the home, size, comfortability, and power for size are some of the major consideration. When dealing with launchers for home defense, size, within reason, doesn't matter, and power and number of shots available before reloading are the key considerations. You can't talk about which launchers are best for defense without assuming you have a defense plan. Your plan should have steps to take for the following types of intruders. The burglar, who assumes you are asleep or not home. They are usually not looking for a confrontation with the occupants. The home invader, which usually involves more than one intruder, who invades knowing someone is home, will come prepared to win any confrontation with the occupants. A less lethal launcher should be sufficient to handle a burglar, as you would take up a defensive position and announce the presence of people being home. Most burglars will retreat unless you go looking for them stealthily. You may end up startling them and causing them to lash out with whatever weapon they have. This could happen before you can fire enough projectiles to hasten their retreat. You should never go looking for a burglar unless they have access to your loved ones. We will discuss defensive plans and various intruder scenarios in a later video. The second type of intruder, the home invader, presents a serious challenge to a less than lethal defense. There are almost certainly to be more than one individual, and at least one of the intruders will have a firearm. We will assume in this video that you can establish yourself in a defensive position between the intruders and you and the other occupants. Now let's look at the recommended launchers. The launchers checked have variable velocity settings capability. The velocity can be raised to give 20 or more joules of power. Some are also imposing at first glance by a startled burglar. As long as the burglar doesn't have a firearm and is confronted far enough apart that you can fire before he can attack, the launchers have enough pain and minor injuries to give, such that the single burglar will run off. Even 2 or 3 burglars might be run off if confrontation was not part of their plan. Against one or more home invaders armed with firearms, there is no less lethal launcher that would give you much of a chance. You should confront armed intruders only as a last resort if you and loved ones can't barricade until help arrives or escape. Surrender and compliance is an option, but assailants who storm your dwelling knowing you are home may have violence, more than robbery, on their mind, or they may torture you or loved ones to see if there is any hidden valuables about that they couldn't find. The launchers shown here are capable of power levels, through modification, of 35 to 50 joules. Some, as well as models not even shown, are capable of twice those figures. The problem is reliability goes down as the launchers are pushed beyond their intended ranges. This is why the targeted power level is stated to be 35 to 50 joules. On the question of whether launchers can be effective tools in one's home defense scheme, the answer is yes. This includes home invasion scenarios. They shouldn't, however, be seen as a solution in and of themselves, just like firearms are not a solution in and of themselves. A home defense plan should address exterior barriers, alarms, safe rooms, choke points for engagements, etc. Let's, before I end this video, reinforce some key points about launchers.
Hi, it's Mike again. If you don't have a firearm, then trying to defend your home is a daunting task. We are going to look at some options, hoping to maximize the opposition you can mount, at a cost that many people can afford. First, let me say that a firearm or less lethal in a vacuum without a defense plan will almost certainly be ineffective. Creating a home defense plan will be discussed later. This video will deal only with considerations when buying one or more launchers for home defense. There are a lot of different reasons why someone doesn't have a firearm for the defense of their home. If your particular reason is you don't want to take a human life, I need to say less lethal does not mean non-lethal. The launchers we recommend have lethal capability, under certain conditions or with certain projectiles. In most instances they dole out severe pain and minor injuries, but there is always the possibility, especially with headshots, that the assailant could suffer serious injuries, including fatal ones. To put it simply, the launcher or launchers you use, must have the capability to render extreme pain and minor to major injuries, to stop an attack inside your home. It is a totally different scenario than concealed carry on the street, where the launcher or other device's primary role is to deter or give you time to escape. If the home invaders have firearms, you must hit them first and with enough power, rapid fire, and noise to simulate that you have a firearm. Don't hang around. Even in retreat, an armed assailant might fire their weapons at you to cover their escape. These requirements are not written in stone, but I think it rather foolish to have a home defense plan where the launchers, with no firearm backup, perform substantially poorer than the requirements shown. You may be able to catch a burglar by surprise, who has no firearm, and who is not looking for a confrontation, but that is a crapshoot at best. When it comes to buying a ready-to-go, off-the-shelf launcher that meets the home defense requirements shown earlier, there is currently only one commonly known choice: the Pepperball VKS. These launchers are expensive, but will do the job. They are also one of the more popular platforms customizers use to get power levels that approach a .22 long rifle firearm cartridge. We don't recommend any power level above the 30 to 50 joules range, for legal and reliability reasons. The next group are very popular among the less lethal community, and either are very easy to modify personally or can be purchased from various vendors, including eBay, ready to go. All can be set up to fire the first 3 to 4 shots in the 30 to 50 joules range, and all have available magazines for 10 or more projectiles. The Umarex HDB and HDX are the least expensive home defense-capable launchers on the market, even if you buy them modified, ready to go, from a vendor. The Valken M17/CQMF is the most versatile, and may be the best way to go with the AR-15 style launchers. The next 3 launchers require very little modification. Even the least mechanical among us can probably do the O-ring upgrade on the Pepperball TCP and the First Strike FSC. The Tipman TIPX only requires a longer third-party barrel and a 12 projectile capacity magazine. I call these launchers fringe, because their first shot will easily be in the acceptable 30 to 50 joules range, but the power of the additional shots drops off fairly rapidly. If you are on a budget, one of these 3 launcher might be your best choice. They can do double duty. Home and concealed carry. Using launchers in combination with other launchers or other devices is always an option. I just chose an oddball combination to show my point. A Umarex HDS launcher, even modified to the max, is not an acceptable home defense launcher. Add Kododo broadhead arrows and it becomes a possibly intruder stopper for sure in a close-range confrontation. Its rate of fire and reload time, however, makes it sketchy at the very least. If you miss your target, you could use the Grimberg gavel for cover fire as you fled the scene or perhaps gain time to reload the HDS with 2 more arrows. That is only one scenario, but the use of 2 launchers in various combinations should be a consideration. Let's move on to projectiles. Our recommended home defense launcher's caliber is 68. The projectiles you want to use should be heavy, up to a point, and hit hard. There are dozens of various 68 caliber projectiles, for launchers, on the market, but we feel, however, that your choice will likely come from one or more of the 5 presented. With the Grimberg HP68 being discontinued, that leaves the BK Spencers for the Pepperball VKS, TCP, and the First Strike FSC. They hit hard and cause serious damage, but they will be more prone to jamming than a round projectile. For a round projectile, home defense choice, the Grimberg Jewel V2 and the PVC covered steel 9.9 gram Riot Ball are your best choices. The aluminum are also a possible choice if your launcher has a steel and not aluminum barrel. Honorable mention goes to the rubber steel composite projectiles that are a little light at 6.8 grams, but pack a punch, especially from the less powerful launchers. That's it for this video. Back to you, Carlotta. Hey everybody, this is Mike, and I am back again to talk about having a home defense plan. The couple in the background picture have no plan and are possibly heading for the abyss. Let's take apart this scene. The man has grabbed a weapon of convenience, but at his age, and in the somewhat close quarters of the house, a long club to swing is definitely not a great choice. The woman following behind the man seems to have no weapon at all. This means she will be a liability in a confrontation. The third thing wrong is they shouldn't be seeking the suspected intruder in the first place. What should they have done? Since they obviously don't have a firearm or less lethal device, they should barricade themselves in their bedroom, call 911, and prepare to use whatever weapon is at their disposal to defend the entrance to their bedroom. A defense plan, however, would focus on the reinforcement of the bedroom door and purchase and learn to use a firearm or less lethal device. They could further enhance their chances by keeping the lights out, but have a super bright flashlight focus on the door. That way, if the intruder or intruders broke through their defenses, they would momentarily be blinded. This is a better method than having the light on your firearm or less lethal launcher. The light is also a target to attack with bullets or blade. Both the man and woman should have a weapon. One with a taser, and the other with a powerful less lethal launcher, wouldn't be a bad choice. The best weapon to build a home defense system around is a firearm. We will confine our discussion, however, to home defense plans built around less lethal options. Given there is a good chance that a home invader will have a firearm, and we will not, great attention should be spent on keeping an intruder out. We also need the advantage of an early warning that someone is trying to break in. The best home defense is to not allow an assailant to enter your house. Towards those ends, you should have reinforced steel doors for the exterior. You also want an alarm system for windows and doors, and cameras at strategic locations. Depending on preference, this can be in the form of a security alarm service, or a do-it-yourself installation. Once you have done your best to secure your home's exterior, you have to start thinking about what you are going to do if they breach your exterior defense and enter your house. You are now at a triple fork in the road. Which path you take is determined by the layout and occupation arrangement of your house. Fork 1. You have children or other residents scattered between the floors of the house, then you must take a confrontational posture towards all intruders. Fork 2. You live alone or with a partner or roommate, then a dedicated safe room should be secured. It should have a sturdy door and be bolstered by a security door stop at the very least. You and your partner or roommate both know to get to the safe room in the event of an invasion. The third fork in the road is your family is on the second floor, and you have an early warning that an intruder has entered or is in the process of entering. Here's where the concept of the choke point comes into play. A choke point is the exposed part of the path the intruder has to take to reach the second floor. You will be at the second floor choke point before the intruder gets there. Getting hit by your kinetic projectiles as he tries to push forward, the intruder without a firearm will almost certainly retreat and look to escape before the police arrive. If the intruder has a firearm, you must make sure you shoot first with a volley of hardest-hitting projectiles from your most powerful launcher. You would then run to the safe room, where hopefully the whole family is already there. Your best hope is you hurt the intruder with a gun badly enough that he fire a salvo at where you were to cover his retreat. If he is a psycho and is bent on killing, then, you and your family prepare for his entrance should he breach your safe room door, and all fire whatever less lethal they have at the intruder and hope for the best. Getting back to fork number 1. This is the most dreaded scenario. You will have a poor chance of survival if you don't also have a firearm, and you have to meet the intruder head-on. Even if you hit the invader with shots to the face, head, etc., they are likely to keep firing at you, even as they are dropping to the floor. I think if an intruder burst in with your family scattered everywhere, you may have to surrender. If you have the heart for it, you could use a taser. It will drop an assailant, to the degree that they can't use their firearm, but those prongs better go in right. If you want you and your loved ones to sleep more safely each night, you need to get a firearm and follow the fork in the road that pertains to your situation. If you are committed to using only less lethal devices in defense of your home, then please think about the following approach. Shore up your exterior defenses, as best you can afford. This means sturdy doors and locks, an alarm system and cameras if possible. Dedicate at least one room as a safe room. That room's door should be beefed up and there should be no easy window access. You should also have less lethal devices there as well as a phone for 911 dialing. At least one responsible adult should conceal carries a taser or less lethal launcher at all times except bedtime. Planting less lethal devices around the home for quick access may backfire. Plus, getting to them will never be as fast as having one on you. Remember, burglaries are likely committed by criminals who are trying to avoid confrontation. Home invaders, however, know someone is home and come armed accordingly. Burglars mostly operate alone. Home invaders almost always travel in pairs or larger. There are a lot of stupid criminals out there. However, in designing your less lethal home defense plan, I caution you to treat potential intruders as chess, not checker players. Things are more likely to work out well if you do.
Hello, this is Moses again, with 15 important considerations for those who are using or plan on using less lethal devices for their home defense. Number 1. Contrary to a million Hollywood TV and movies, you can't expect to be awakened from your sleep by an intruder making a loud noise entering or moving around your home. If they know someone is home, give them credit to be as quiet as ninjas. The bottom line is, get an effective alarm system. Otherwise, it is pot luck whether the intruder will attack you and others in the house or steal a few things and leave. In either case, without an early warning, you and your less lethal devices will be of no consequence to the invader. Number 2. Warning signs may be an effective deterrent for hooligan teens and other criminal opportunists looking for an easy target. The professional home invader, however, might feel that the chance of picking up a cache of firearms may be worth the risk. They will also know to come armed for the occasion. Number 3. Lots of our more affluent neighbors feel that because they are in a gated community, or in a secure building, or occupy a high floor with no street accessibility, that they are safe from a home invader. When the famous criminal John Dillinger was asked why did he rob banks, his answer was, because that's where the money is. If you have money and other possessions worth stealing, all security obstacles may be overcome by determined thieves. In the end, it is always only you who can truly protect yourself and loved ones. Number 4. This is one of the most important points of the 15. As a less lethal defender, it is critical that you hamper the entry of an intruder via sturdy doors and windows where possible. The next line of defense is to have an alarm system that will detect an attempted intrusion. This gives you time to execute your home defense plan. The third line of defense are cameras, which can help you see who is trying to gain entry and where they are trying to enter. You don't want to get into a confrontation with an intruder or intruders unless absolutely necessary. Number 5. Whether you live in a multi-story home or a rancher, you must identify a point where the intruder must pass through, exposed, to get to you and your sequestered loved ones. This point is commonly called a choke point. It is the only place where a less lethal defender will have a chance to slow or stop the advance of an intruder or intruders. If the intruders are armed with firearms, you will, at best, be able to get a few shots at them before immediately heading to your safe room. Thinking you can stand your ground with your launcher against assailants armed with firearms is a fool's errand. Number 6. If a criminal sets off an alarm before gaining entry to your home, he is likely to abandon the effort and run off. This is especially true if he knows someone is home, even if he is armed with a firearm. Attention and time are the enemies of the home invader. Number 7. If an intruder gets this close to you in a compromising position, even if only armed with a knife, it is unlikely that you will escape a confrontation unharmed if you have a firearm. If you only have a less lethal, you are very likely to come up very short. Number 8. You must have a safe room in your dwelling. I don't mean an official vault-like safe rooms that the rich can have built. I mean some normal room in the home where the door and windows are fortified against easy access. Your defense plan should have all occupants of your home trained to head for this safe room immediately upon hearing an alarm going off or other warning. You should have your most powerful, less lethal arsenal here, with something for everyone if there are others, in addition to you, living there. Number 9. The nightmare scenario is the situation where your home is being invaded and your family has not all retreated to the safe room. You, at that point, have to seek out the intruder or intruders. It doesn't matter whether the intruder or intruders are armed with crowbars, knives, or firearms. Your task will be daunting to say the least. You might want to think about point 12 in this presentation. Number 10. As a less lethal defender, you have to get out of your head the concept that pain and even broken bones is going to stop the charge of an assailant. Secondly, we have to understand that the charge will almost always be a maximum of 20 feet and usually much less. Your role is deliver as much damage that can be done in a quick salvo, then head to the safe room. This is when the assailant's pain and possible injuries will cause them to retreat. If they have a firearm, they will fire at you until they are unconscious, so shoot and run for your life to your safe room. Number 11. The caption says it all. You have to be very lucky. Number 12. If there aren't going to be any firearms in your home, you might want to consider other devices that are less lethal than a firearm, but perhaps more lethal than a less lethal launcher. The combination of a powerful less lethal pistol and a more lethal device might be something to consider, especially if you are likely going to have to seek out intruders as opposed to head for the safe room. Number 13. What do you carry when you answer the door? Some people put a launcher near the door. This is only a possibility if you have no children. The main thing to consider is the times when you will open your door for a legitimate reason, like to receive a package or talk to a known neighbor, etc. If you are rushed by assailants in hiding, is there time for you to retrieve your nearby launcher, charge it, and meet your assailants before they have breached the doorway? You might want to consider concealed carrying a less lethal device in your home. This could be a launcher or a taser. Number 13. If you can't hit your target, which is likely to be moving, it doesn't matter what weapon you have. Those who think they will be able to hit an attacking intruder in the face or head under the most stressful situation of their life are optimistic, to say the least. There are thousands of videos on YouTube of shootouts between criminals and private citizens and criminals and the police. The whole exchange is usually over in seconds, and very rarely is anyone hit in the face of head, and even then, by chance, as opposed to from aiming. Number 14. You might want to consider shooting at the blue arrow regions rather than center mass or red arrow areas for the unarmed assailant. This is not for humanitarian reasons, but because pain will not halt the attack, and you will probably miss the red flag areas. Hitting the blue arrow areas may slow or stop the charge, not because of pain, but because it may cause the assailants to stumble and possibly fall. Hitting the hands or arms may hinder their ability to effectively wield the weapon even if right on top of you. If confronted by armed assailants, you would fire at the red flag areas, then run for the safe room. They might not know you have a less lethal and not a firearm and retreat while returning fire. Although red dots, laser, scopes are useless in a home invasion encounter, the red dot and laser could be used as a bluff. You flash the red dot or laser and fire, then run. Unless you have known wealth by the assailants, they won't want to proceed. Above all else, practice, practice, practice. Number 15. Because less lethal launchers are gas-powered via CO2, compressed air, or nitrogen. They incorporate valves and seals in the form of O-rings to operate. No matter how well you maintain them, they are subject to fail at any time. There is no way around this fact. You might, therefore, always plan on having a backup for any confrontation that may happen. When I say backup, I mean on or with you. I don't mean run back to your arsenal and grab another launcher. That's it for now. Back to you, Carlotta.
Hello, this is Carly. I will talking about the good, bad and ugly aspects of using a modified launcher. We will cover each launcher shown here. First, let's start with what we mean by modified launcher. By modified, we means changing, removing or replacing any of the stock components of a launcher. Some launchers have the ability to vary their power output. This is not modifying the launcher if you adjust the power. Why would someone want to modify their launcher, you may ask? The answer is, most launchers are designed for either paintball or pepperball use. They, therefore, are usually underpowered for self-defense use. We think pepperballs are useful for security and law enforcement, but not so much for personal and home defense. Pepperballs are also illegal in California, New York, and other locales. This means solid kinetic projectiles are what is used for personal and home less lethal defense. Using solid kinetics means pain is the deterrent. The tightrope, therefore, is to deliver the most pain, without causing significant hospitalization or death. The Pepperball VKS is a very popular launcher for security and law enforcement agencies. It is also a popular choice for less lethal home defense. It has enough power without any modifications, but some choose to make it extremely powerful, which decreases its less lethal status and opens up a potentially can of worms legally. If you have the money, then it is a good choice for someone who wants to buy something stock that is an effective less lethal launcher. The Valken M17 is probably more popular than the Pepperball VKS, partly due to its significant lower price. It has adequate power for less lethal home defense stock. It is, however, recommended to change the O-ring to a more robust one, even if doing no other mods. There are several well-documented modifications that will take it up to the upper limits of our recommended less lethal power range. It uses high-pressure air instead of CO2 for gas power. This is cheaper in the long run, but has a significant startup cost. HPA does deliver more consistent shots, power-wise. At first glance by an assailant, this launcher, the HDB, looks like something they really don't want to go up against. It can back up its looks when modified to deliver 5 shots in the 30 to 50 plus joules range. You can also modify it to have more shots, but at less power levels. It is simple to modify, requiring no additional parts. The price fully modified DIY will be about $200. You can buy it modified, ready to go for about double that amount. The HDX looks even more imposing than the HDB and has a terrifying pump action sound, like a real firearm. The modification and features are very similar to the HDB, except it is a pump action and is not semi-automatic. It also uses 2 CO2 cartridges or one large one. It therefore has more high-powered shots than the HDB. It cost about $90 more than the HDB stock, but about the same modified. The HDS is another imposing-looking launcher from the Umarex line. Looks, however, is its strong point. It is marginally powerful fully modified, and only has 2 shots before needing to be reloaded. It is not the recommended launcher for defense of you or your family. The HDR 68 caliber is one of the more popular launchers, modified for personal less lethal defense. It is extremely inexpensive to buy stock or already converted. It is limited to 5 shots before reloading, but you can carry additional preloaded cylinders on you for a fairly fast reload. It doesn't meet our recommended power range for home defense, but it is indeed much better than just harsh words. The 50 caliber version of the HDR is even more popular than its big brother. It is large and awkward to conceal carry on one's body, but can be done even with light clothing, with some attention to one's attire and holster setup. The simplest modifications increase its power to the low 20s in joules. You can then add new barrels, valve chamber extensions, etc. Some shaped rounds make this launcher like its big brother, more potent. In 50 caliber, however, the increased likelihood of bodily penetration is much greater than in 68 caliber. This is not good legally. The Umarex HDP is the gateway launcher to the less lethal world of self-defense. It is inexpensive, easy to modify, and is slim enough for concealed carry, having the same footprint as the classic 1911 firearms. Its modified power is about the same as the HDR series, and like them can be turned into a Franken launcher monster. There is a compact version, which has 4-shot capacity and is smaller, but not necessarily a better concealed carry fit, than the full-size model. I see no reason to choose the compact version over the full-size version. It even costs more. The First Strike FSC and the Pepperball TCP are 2 of the finest choices for less lethal defense. Although they have minor differences as they are put out by different companies, they are in fact the same launchers. With the change of a single O-ring, you can adjust the power of these 2 launchers to acceptable levels for on the street and home defense. Their main weakness is you must change CO2 cartridges for every reload. This combination CO2 projectile magazine is too bulky to be practically carried on the street or at home. Fortunately, there are third-party alternatives. These third-party alternatives offer more than the 6 shots the stock launchers offer. They also offer more power via using a larger 12-gram CO2 cartridge versus the 8-gram stock CO2 cartridge. The Tipman TIPX works well from a gym bag, sling bag, or other bag for concealed carry on the streets. You add a long barrel, with a mock silencer for looks, and a 12 projectile holding magazine, then it truly becomes badass for home defense. Carlotta, back to you.
We citizens, committed to less lethal home defense, have different levels of responsibility. Some of us have children, partners, roommates, other family members, pets, etc., to defend, besides ourselves. But even if we only need to defend ourselves and our homes, is it prudent not to have a plan B? For some in the less lethal community, they choose to make their launchers as powerful as possible. For those of us who keep our launcher at 50 joules or under, is it smart not to have something more formidable as backup? For many, that backup, or Plan B, is a firearm. They have less lethal devices as an option to deploying lethal force. Invasion of the home by an opportunist burglar or teenage hooligans is the only situation where confrontation, having only less lethal launchers, is reasonable. Most home invasions, where it is clear that someone is home, will be done by more than one assailant, and at least one of the intruders will have a firearm. We at Less Lethal Options felt obligated to explore augmenting our less lethal defense with non-firearm, but more lethal devices for worst-case scenarios. Let's look at 3 weapons that are still likely to be less lethal than a firearm if deployed obeying some restrictions. Ironically, they are less likely to get you into legal trouble than a super high-powered modified launcher, especially firing shaped projectiles. There are so many air guns, in particular, pre-charged pneumatic pellet rifles, that we will make no attempt to delve into them on any significant level. I have chosen one particular model, the Hassan Invader, because it fits into our less than lethal power range. The Invader can fire 10, 25 caliber pellets, all at in the 50 joules range, as fast as you can pull the trigger. There is no danger of leaks, blowing O-rings. It cost $599, and you have to add another $300 to $500 for a high-pressure air compressor if you don't already have one. Is it a step up from a modified Valken M17, or a Pepperball VKS, or modified Umarex HDB, etc.? I don't think so. It is not really more of a stopper than a 40 joules capable launcher. The next candidate, for being a more lethal, less lethal addition to our home defense arsenals, is the Steam Bow AR-6 Stinger II Tactical. Although its joules output is around 20, the Bodkin's bolts make it a weapon that penetrate through any clothing and do damage to the flesh. It could deliver a fatal blow, but that is not a foregone conclusion. It is still less lethal than a firearm, but more lethal than a 50 joules launcher, using the 90-pound limbs for the bow. This crossbow may show up again when the less lethal presenters show and discuss what they use for home defense. The picture almost speaks for itself. A compact-sized compound bow can be a very effective home defense weapon, damage-wise, and is small enough to wield moving around the house in a confrontational situation. The biggest drawback is you pretty much will be totally exposed to get shots off at the assailant. Depending on arrow choice and bow draw, it can be more lethal than the crossbow pistol shown earlier. No one at Less Lethal Options chose a compound bow as an addition to their arsenal. If you are into archery and already have one, then it certain should be a major consideration. That's it for more lethal, less lethal devices. I want to add one note that may be of interest. If you permanently injured or fatally injured an intruder or intruders using any of the 3 weapon types shown, or a highly modified launcher, the compound bow would probably cause you the least amount of legal aftermath. That is, as with the Stinger 2, you didn't use broadhead tips on your arrows. Carlotta, back to you.
Hello, this is Carlotta, and I am going to discuss my home defense setup. I live nearby and should be home soon. See you there. Hi, I have been home for a while, and I am finally settled. Let's get started. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with my husband and 6-year-old daughter. The only entry points to our apartment are via this balcony, which would take a highly skilled cat burglar, and the main entrance door. Since we have a child on the loose here, we lock up our on-the-street less lethal devices as soon as we get home. They are not a part of our home defense plan. We deduced that the biggest threat would come through the main door. This would be by subterfuge or by force. Even though a cat burglar home invasion is very unlikely, we keep the patio door locked when not in use and we have it alarmed. We had the door frame reinforced and installed the best recommended deadbolt setup. It will take some time and a lot of force to break in quickly. We hopefully would have enough time to barricade ourselves in our bedroom and call 911. The way to get in is through subterfuge. We live in a building that requires being buzzed in. We know people can bypass that by many methods, including Good Samaritan neighbors. We therefore don't open our door for anyone who we haven't talked to and buzzed in, and who hasn't called us on the phone while standing outside our door. The less lethal devices my husband and I use when home and our daughter is up is the pulse taser. We carry one each in our pockets. We hopefully could handle a patio intruder. If caught unexpectedly by intruders trying to break in through the front door, we hope we could deter them with our 2 tasers, until we could sweep up our daughter and barricade ourselves the bedroom. In the bedroom we have 2 Tipman TIPX launchers locked up. They have third-party 14-inch barrels and third-party 12 projectile holding magazines. We would bring them out and make our stand until police arrive. Well, that's my home defense plan. I hope I never have to implement any part of it. I hope this has helped you evaluate your own home defense plan. Now for some much-needed family time. Bye for now.
Hello folks, it's me, Moses again, home after a long day out in the city. I used to think being out here in the suburbs, I had little to fear from criminals. That is changing rapidly as the more mobile and aggressive criminals are starting to see that the suburbs is where the money is. It started with parcel thefts, but has escalated to burglaries and some home invasions. Carjacking and following people home from the bank or ATM is also on the rise. Just like the homeless flooded the liberal cities, criminals are likely to select communities most anti-firearm oriented. The state I live makes purchasing a firearm tedious, time-consuming, and expensive. I was going to get a shotgun and pistol, but soured at the whole gun purchasing process. I didn't want to be on the state's and federal government's database for possible harassments or forced compliance with each new anti-firearm legislation. My children are grown, but I certainly want to protect wife and myself from home invasion of any kind. I did my due diligence and saw that even in my state, which cares nothing about the safety of its citizens, there are legal, less lethal options to firearms. Any decent home defense plan starts with trying to make it inconvenient for criminals to make an unwanted entry. The second thing to address is to install a warning system to detect someone trying to gain uninvited entry. A camera is a good idea to be a part of the alarm system. My wife and I are retired with a fixed income, so we made some compromises. We added lockable wrought iron storm doors in front of our normal front and rear doors. We have motion detector lights on all 4 sides of our house. We have all doors and windows alarmed. The alarm system has a battery backup. The next step is to designate one of the rooms in the house to also being the safe room. We chose our bedroom to be the safe room. We replaced the door with a solid wood door and added bolts a foot above and below the standard lock. We also keep a door stopper near the door to be deployed when necessary. We then had to decide where our choke point would be. This is the place where we would make a stand to stop an intruder from reaching the safe room. The top of the stairs is the ideal choke point to defend. The intruder is exposed with a narrow pathway to maneuver. Unless they are armed and can fire at you to cover their move up the stairs, they will be easy to hit them with whatever is the best tool in your less lethal arsenal. The challenge after bedtime is to have enough warning in advance so you can beat the intruder to the top of the stairs with your less lethal weapon in your hand, ready to fire. One of the reasons we made the safe room the bedroom is for the time when I won't beat the intruder to the top of the stairs. We barricade ourselves in the bedroom and bring out our most potent weapons and make a stand until the intruders leave or the police arrive. The final part of a home defense plan should be what scenarios are you going to prepare for, and what weapons or weapons will you choose for your defense. The scenarios I planned for are as follows. The first scenario is my wife simply answering the door. If I am home, I will always answer the door. If I am away, she will not open the door for anyone, not family or known friends. There are 2 doors so she can see who is at the door. She carries a pulse taser in the pocket of whatever she is wearing. This is in the case of multiple assailants trying to break in, perhaps from the front and back at the same time. She knows to run to the choke point and if hotly pursued to give the lead chaser a blast from the taser, then scurry into the safe room and bolt and lock the doors. In the safe room, she will have immediate access to a Tipman TIPX launcher with a 12 projectile magazine. She will fire a half a dozen projectiles or so when any part of an intruder can be seen through a torn part or wedge open part of the door. The final stand will be to run into the bathroom in the bedroom and lock that door and fortify it with a door stopper. In one of the bathroom vanity cabinet drawers is a maximum power stun gun bat-ton. Keep in mind almost any intruders would have fled the scene long before the final bathroom stand. The alarms would be blasting from the moment someone forced entry. The launcher would clearly sound like gunshots to the neighbors, and probably would have been the thing to have the intruders flee the scene. There are variations on the answer the door theme. If I am home, I will answer the door, but not open either door. I conceal carry a Grimberg gavel or pepperball TCP on me from the time I get up to the time I get in bed at night. When I go to the door and see who is there. If it looks suspicious, I activate my launcher. If the alarm goes off for the back door or windows, or the person or persons at the front door get aggressive, I tell my wife to run to the safe room and I run to take a position at the choke point at the top of the stairs. These simplistic animated simulations sometimes make things seem a whole lot better than reality will bring. If armed intruders invade my home, even if I execute my plan as was shown, they almost certainly are going to return gunfire, if no more than to cover their retreat. I have to move to the safe room after firing the initial salvo of 3 to 4 shots down the stairs. The return fire will penetrate any protection I think I have. The answering the door scenario, and variations thereof, are assumed to be daytime or early evening incidents. This next scenario assumes it is late evening, as let's say, I am watching TV in the living room. There is no doorbell ring, but the motion detectors have turned the lights on in the back. I would reach under the couch, where I was sitting, and bring out my modified Umarex HDB, loaded with 6 aluminum projectiles. I would turn off all lights on the first floor and take a position at the choke point at the top of the stairs. I carry a wireless remote control on me at all times. It is connected to a very bright lamp in the foyer. Whether the alarms go off or not, if I detect someone has gotten in and is moving through the first floor, I stay pat where I am. If they make their way to the stairs, I will turn on the bright light, which still leaves me in the dark at the top of the stairs. I will be able to see them before their eyes adjust and yell for them to vacate the property. If they are holding weapons of any kind, or start reaching for one, I would fire all 6 projectiles at vulnerable areas. I would use my TCP or gavel launcher that I conceal carry to cover my dash to the safe room. In the safe room, I would wake my wife up gently and hand her the TIPX. I would reload the HDB with a fresh CO2 cartridge and 6 more aluminum projectiles. I would call 911, manually trigger the alarm system, and wait for the police. The third and final scenario is the dreaded late-at-night break-in. There are too many variations to cover, but it really boils down to 2 situations. I get to the choke point at the top of the stairs before the intruders, or I don't. The truth is, if someone was clever enough to break in and not set off any alarms, I can't take the chance to even try and get to the choke point. I stay in the safe room. I send my wife into the bathrooms with her TIPX and my HDB. I would put on my belly band holster with either the TCP or gavel. I would move up to something a little more lethal and have my Stinger 2 crossbow pistol ready. That's it for a look into my less lethal home defense plan. I hope it gave you some ideas, or food for thought. Until the next time.
Welcome. Mike here. TGIF. I had a little time to unwind, so let's start in on my less lethal home defense plan. My home layout and living situation is not ideal for a less lethal defense. That is because it is a split-level townhouse. My daughter and granddaughter live on the lower level, and my wife and I live on the second level. Entrance is through the garage, or front door. There is a foyer after the front door that leads to the stairs going to the second level. It also leads directly to the small apartment on the first level. A choke point at the top of my stairs doesn't work, because my daughter and granddaughter would still be totally exposed and vulnerable. I have a steel front door with a camera above it. The door from the garage is also steel and dead-bolted. All windows and doors in my dwelling are alarmed. The weak point is the bedroom and family area windows on the first level. So, if intruders forced their way in through those windows or the front door, I would be cut off from my daughter and granddaughter. I would have to confront the intruders and not just make a stand. My daughter, like her mother, won't have a firearm in her area. She also doesn't even want to have a less lethal launcher, as it would have to be locked up, and not likely to be available in the seconds it takes for a break-in to happen. Her plan is to make it upstairs to our safe room, or barricade herself and daughter in their bathroom. Given the police are not likely to get here on time, it is up to me to go downstairs and confront the intruders and save my family. I will be at a tremendous disadvantage, confronting intruders, some of which are likely to be armed with firearms. I also will be in their choke point. I will be totally exposed going down the stairs, with no room to maneuver or avoid a direct attack. The question is, therefore, what less lethal devices will I wield? Even more problematic was, what less lethal should I choose, and where will it be kept, such that a 6-year-old child won't find it, yet is accessible within seconds? I decided to conceal carry on my body, as being the only way to always have something ready. Carrying a launcher presented problems, as I don't usually dress with blousy untucked shirts. I decided on something that will probably shock you. Yep, I carry 2 pulse tasers, one in each of my front jean pockets. I can draw and fire with my left hand pretty well, for being right-handed. Unfortunately, they only fire 1 shot apiece before needing to be reloaded. They are not the only device in my arsenal, but they have one feature no other devices have. They can stop anyone cold, including those wielding a firearm. Even a lethal strike from any other device may not stop the assailant from getting some shots off. The launcher I chose to carry in addition to the 2 tasers is a modified Umarex HDB 68 caliber. The final product looks like the following. I keep it in a dedicated cabinet near the top of the stairs. I keep the key to the lock on a lanyard around my neck at all times that I am home. This includes while sleeping and taking a shower. It is loaded with 14 aluminum balls, and has enough power to make a lasting impression on those hit by the projectiles. I am a realist, so I understand that if I rush downstairs and confront intruders, already in the house, with some or all of which having firearms, I more than likely will be killed. My only hope would be to fire some projectiles, and run back up the stairs. I have to assume that my daughter and granddaughter are barricaded in the bathroom, and the intruders, knowing the gunfire will enhance the speed in which the police will show up, might leave. If they caught my daughter and granddaughter before they could get to the bathroom, I would have to surrender without firing a shot. I worry about the worst-case scenario, where the intruders have gotten inside and they have firearms. There are, however, many possible scenarios where the intruders haven't completely entered, are not armed with firearms, etc. For those situations, I think my HDB launcher and 2 tasers will afford me a decent home defense.
Hi everyone, this is Carly, and I have had another exhausting day. I am excited, however, to talk about my less lethal home defense plan. I own a 3-story townhouse. Since I am self-employed and am a relatively young homeowner, I wanted to ensure I could handle the mortgage and other charges during bad times. The layout is such that there is a small in-law apartment on the first level and then 2 additional floors. I decided to live in the first-level apartment and rent out the rest of the house to a professional couple. The 2 entrances to the house are via the front door and through the rear garage. The front foyer and a hallway from the garage entrance lead directly to the stairs going to the second level. There is a single door off the hallway that leads directly into my apartment. I keep it closed at all times, giving privacy to myself as well as to the couple upstairs. The couple is quite active socially and there is no lack of people coming and going odd hours, especially on the weekend. I replaced the standard interior door to the hallway with a reinforced frame and steel door. I also have it alarmed, as are all of my windows. I have a separate alarm for the door to the garage that gives me an audio cue whenever the couple are coming or going via their automobiles. Some of you might remember, I carry a Grimberg gavel when away from home. At home, I leave it in the bag I carry, and that stays in my bedroom, near the bed. In the bathroom, which is my safe room, I have a modified Umarex HDP-50 with a speed loader. I also have a pulse taser. Here in the living room, I have another HDP-50 with speed loader, under the cushion of this chair I am sitting on. I know there are more powerful choices, especially in the rifle format, but I like my compact, easy-to-handle arsenal. My defense plan is as follows. I have no family living nearby, and friends know not to drop in unannounced. I have a camera and intercom system for the front door, with separate bells for the upstairs couple and myself. The camera activates by proximity and not just by ringing the doorbell. I can see who is at the outer door by turning on the TV. If it is already on, they will appear in a window. I don't let anyone into my apartment I don't personally know and want to enter, even if they are friends or relatives of the couple upstairs. For a daytime force entry, the intruders would only have immediate access to the stairs, and not my apartment. If I am in the living room, I will deploy the HDP-50 and make my way to the bedroom, grab the bag with the gavel, and then barricade myself in the bathroom. The bag that has the gavel also has a phone. I would call 911 and wait for the police. If intruders force their way into my apartment and rummage around looking for things to steal, I stay pat. If they try and force their way into the bathroom, they will be met with a hail of projectiles from the 2 HDP-50s. Unless the intruder or intruders are bent on murder, more than on robbery, they will retreat. In retreat, however, they may fire through the bathroom door, if armed, to cover their retreat. It's the roll of the dice whether they hit me or not. If they are set on murder, then the first one through the door gets the taser, and then I empty the gavel, shooting for the neck, head or groin. When I chose to go the less lethal route and not get a firearm, I knew I significantly lowered my chance of survival, confronted with armed assailants. So be it. The defense procedures at night, while I am sleeping, is pretty much the same as a daytime break-in. If an alarm sounds, I grab the bag by the bed and head into the bathroom, which has no window access. The difference would be that I would only have one HDP-50, instead of two. I follow the news for crime incidents, in not just my city or neighborhood, but anywhere. I am always looking to improve my home defense plan. I hope you are too.